Guys, quick, subscribe to the channel in the next 10 seconds or nothing is actually going to happen. Honestly, like, only 20% of you guys who watch my content are subscribed, so if you really want to support me as a creator, just please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video. That's actually all it asks for you to do. It's completely free. You can always unsubscribe in the future if you don't enjoy my content anymore. Just please give me a chance. Before we get into this video, I do just want to point out, when you guys are subscribing to my channel and turning on post notifications, make sure if you are on a PC, I think this also does work for mobile, there will be a little notification bell like this. You need to actually select the notification bell and ensure this option right here is ticked so it says all, because if you're not to select it yourself, YouTube will just kind of do it randomly, and sometimes what that'll mean is notifications are on personalized instead of all, which also then means you're not getting notified for every single video I upload. Like, I do sometimes get people commenting on my videos saying they were not notified, like notifications didn't send out. It's mainly just because you haven't turned on notifications correctly, so make sure you do select all. Yo guys, what's going on? It's your boy Fxtch here, back with a brand new YouTube video. In today's video, as I know Christmas is kind of right around the corner, it's literally next month, I'm going to be talking about whether you guys should buy a 240 Hz or maybe just put that on your Christmas list for Fortnite in this day and age. Of course, this will just go for gaming in general, but this is mainly orientated towards Fortnite, so whether you should have a 240 Hz display for Fortnite, like, is it really worth it? But yeah, if this video helps you out in any way, you guys can drop a like for me. Really does help support the channel. You can also go the extra mile, subscribe, post notifications turned on, therefore you never miss an upload on my channel. I'm actually going to try and shorten my intro, so we are literally just going to get straight into it. I know, like, a ton of you guys comment on my video saying my intros are way too long, so yeah, let's just get straight into it. So hopping straight into this, short and simple, the reason I wanted to make this video, as I mentioned, was because of a pro player. I happened to be at the right place, right time, and I was on Twitch watching Fxtch. That's the pro player who I was talking about, Fxtch. He actually just signed to G2 actually, so huge congratulations to Fxtch for that. But he was actually doing his like whole announcement stream, and I happened to be on Twitch watching it, and as I was watching it, he actually mentioned something about monitors and 240 Hz and why you actually shouldn't switch to 240 Hz. I'm gonna play the clip here in a second, but he was talking to one of his friends within a Discord call, and what I'm guessing is they are on 144 Hz, and Fxtch basically told him not to switch to a 240 whatsoever. Like, literally word for word, if I'm to dumb it down, that's what he said. Now, so you guys can get a better understanding, I'm gonna play the clip right now. I actually clipped this myself, and then I'm gonna elaborate on it, and then I'm gonna use this clip as kind of the basis for this video and just explain whether he's right or not about this.
Reed, you're so lucky. You did, like, Reed, trust me, do not switch on 240 Hz. Whatever you do, not do it, please. Trust me, like, you will thank me. Just don't switch to 240. Why? Because it's just like, you don't understand.
I'm on 144.
Yeah, just don't switch. Trust me. It's just like, the thing is, you're playing Expo and you're so lucky that you don't have to, like, you know, when you like land Stark and you like play 240, there's no way your FPS gonna stay on 240 in Stark early, and then it will drop down to 140, and your sense will change mid game, and you will miss all your shots, and it happens all the time. Like, it's only worth switching when the game is unstable FPS, otherwise it's hard.
Alright, so you guys have just seen that clip right there. Basically, to dumb it down a little more for you, he's simply just saying, or he's telling someone in his call who was actually currently on a 144 Hz monitor not to switch to 240. I'm guessing they were considering switching, and Fxtch is like straight up just telling him, do not switch. Like, you're so lucky to be on 144 Hz right now. It isn't worth the money. It isn't worth the switch. Just stay on 144 Hz and you will probably have a better experience in the game. Now, the reason Fxtch fixed this, you probably know because you just watched the clip, but he mentioned something about he was landing Stark, I'm pretty sure it was. It's a drop spot in Fortnite, but when he lands at his drop spot, or I'm guessing it's his drop spot for tournaments like FNCS maybe, but when he lands at his drop spot, obviously Fxtch does have a 240 Hz monitor. He plays Expo on a controller. I think this doesn't actually matter if your controller, keyboard or mouse, like input, it doesn't really matter, but I think for controller, like actually using Expo, it'll be more noticeable or predominant, because what he's saying is happening when you're on 240 Hz and you're not actually getting 240 FPS, which is what you should be getting for a 240 Hz monitor. He's saying when you are not at the FPS, so for example, when he's dropping Stark, his FPS drops a ton, his performance drops within Fortnite, and he doesn't reach that FPS. Basically, he's saying his game feels extremely stuttery and kind of delayed in a way because he's not reaching his peak refresh rate, which if you actually do have 240 Hz, you again should be reaching. And he reckons for Expo in particular, which I'm pretty sure is meant to be really good for long range aim, like of course controller has aim assist, and I'm guessing what he's saying is it makes Expo almost feel non-existent. Like, it's like he doesn't have aim assist because he's missing all his shots or more shots than he should be when his his FPS is dropping below his refresh rate. Now, hopefully that makes sense. I kind of overcomplicated that a little bit, but basically with 240Hz, if you're not getting 240 FPS and you drop below that, your game is going to feel like very, very horrible. It's not going to be stable, and it's just not going to be a pleasant experience. And especially if you're using a controller with aim assist and exponential and you're trying to maybe, I don't know, shoot people out the air as they're gliding into the drop spot. Maybe you grab an AR straight away off the top of a roof at Stark or whatever your drop spot is in this matter. But what'll happen is your aim will feel extremely off and everything will just feel really bad and just a really poor playing experience. And yeah, that is exactly why he said stay on 144Hz, because with 144Hz you kind of are forced to cap at 144 or 140, for the most part 140 FPS. I know some people do cap over that, like maybe they cap at 160, and to be honest, the rule in Fortnite, like there's never actually like an exact rule that you have to cap at like 140 for 144Hz or you have to cap at 160 for 144Hz. Realistically, what you're meant to do is just cap at your highest and most stable consistent frame rate. So let's say you have an 144Hz monitor but your game can run like easy 200 FPS. Realistically, you could cap at 200 FPS, because no matter if you cannot visually see that, like there is a difference, and in some way you will have in-game performance increase over 160 FPS to maybe 200 if you can get a stable 200 FPS. But obviously I do know that most people will cap, for example 144Hz, they will be at 160 or 140, as I already mentioned like 20 times. And that's where Fxtch is basically saying that with controller, at least with full control, I mean this surely goes for any input again, but surely for controller and expo, because you are then capped at a lower FPS and most likely you can reach those frame rates quite consistently, you won't have such a drop in performance and your game should feel fairly smooth and actually consistent, you know, responsive, and your aim shouldn't be bad, aim assist shouldn't be affected in any way with 144Hz. Guys, comment down below how much I said the word 144Hz there, or how many times I said the word FPS. I swear I just said that about 1,000 times. And also I want to know you guys' thoughts on this. Like, what do you think about that? I feel he is completely right. Like, everything he's saying is completely accurate. You know, he's experiencing this himself. I mean, he's almost saying he wishes he was on 144Hz, because his aim early game or maybe even end game, when your FPS is dropping and there's a ton of players around you and so much stuff loading in, so much for the game to process, he wishes he wasn't on 240Hz because the game isn't treating that so well. And does that mean full stop you should not buy a 240Hz monitor? No, not at all. I'm pretty sure I was about to say, but you know, at the end of the video he does mention that if you can get a consistent 240 FPS, it is worth switching. Like if you're going to be early game and get 240 FPS, if you're going to be end game and get a consistent 240 FPS, then it's worth it. Of course, you may drop a slightly below that, but if you're only averaging like 100 FPS end game, 100 FPS early game, maybe like 150 to 180 mid game, it generally isn't worth it. That's kind of the hard truth to it. You want to make sure you have the sufficient specs and your PC, your system, your hardware is of the strength to actually support those higher end frames and refresh rates. Like I'm pretty sure in the clip as well, one of his friends said, you're kind of right, I can't even pull like, I don't know what he said, I can't remember the exact figure, I think it was like 150 FPS, or he's like, I can only pull 200, something like that. But he actually kind of agreed with Fxtch here. Like what he was saying was not wrong at all. Now that is kind of all I have for the video. I'm not going to wrap it up right here, but what I want you to take from this is don't buy a 240Hz monitor if you cannot support that. If you do not get anywhere near the FPS, like if you have a GTX card, like I think take this with a grain of salt. It isn't for everyone with this system or these specs, but if you have a not so good CPU and maybe you have like a GTX series graphics card, it probably isn't worth getting a 240Hz, because you probably do not get a consistent 240 FPS. Like even some of the pros, like even Fxtch, I know Fxtch has god tier PC, he has a streaming PC, and he also has an actual gaming PC, so when he streams he doesn't actually get actual in-game performance drop, and he does have a very hefty built PC. Like I know that for sure. Players like Benji also have really good PCs, and they also do struggle to get 240 FPS consistently. It isn't easy. But as I was saying, like if you have a GTX card, like you most likely cannot get 240 FPS, especially with CPUs. Like I think your processor, your CPU is like a very big one. Fortnite is heavily dependent on your CPU. The game is CPU bound, which basically means if you have a potato of a processor, so a really low end processor, maybe an i5 maybe, or a very low end i7, even though I have an i7 700K, it isn't that bad, but to be honest I can't get a consistent 240 FPS, I really can't. But let's say maybe an i5, Intel i5, or maybe a lower end AMD. I'm not really knowledgeable about AMD processors, but let's say you have a bad AMD processor, that also probably means you won't get much FPS in Fortnite. Also, that's a tip for you guys, don't think your GPU is everything in Fortnite. Your GPU, it does obviously help, but the game is also heavily reliant and more reliant on your processor. So if you haven't got a good processor and you do get performance drop, and maybe you guys are watching my FPS increase videos, anything like that, it's probably the reason you're lagging. Like I actually know this myself. I used to have a really bad processor. It was like a low-end AMD CPU, and the second I went to my i7 700K, I actually upgraded upgraded, I seen huge performance increase. Like my frames were through the roof, and obviously over time Fortnite has got less and less optimized. The game is in a really bad state right now performance wise, and my PC is struggling at this point. Like I can't get a consistent 240 FPS. I've mentioned that I'm on 144 Hz myself right now, and I do have the money to upgrade. I could simply upgrade to a 240 Hz, but I'm holding off on it. I'm really just waiting till I can upgrade my system, and then it'll be more worth it for me. And before I have everyone commenting, like all the arguments in the comments, like, oh, this guy is lying, da 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 da, like there's gonna be a ton of people like that. There always is. Like you can't please the world. There's always gonna be someone who hate your opinion, or whether this video is an opinion, it's subjective. Take it with a grain of salt if you want. I mean, pro player, literally a literal pro player who plays the game every day, has an insane PC. He's witnesses for himself. I mean, the only reason I think that keeps him from switching back to 144 Hz and it keeps him on 240 is just because in some situations he will have a performance increase, he will have a competitive edge, and he will have good performance. Like he will be hitting 240 FPS, and that's where it will be nice and an enjoyable experience. But for the most part, he's saying like that isn't happening, that isn't the case, and it does seem to be an issue. And also Clicks, let's use Clicks for example. Clicks was a literal pro player at the time. I'm pretty sure he was signed to Misfits, and he was on 144 Hz for so long. Only this year, I'm pretty sure, like I think early this year, he switched to 240 and competing and making a ton of money doing that. Obviously he had a little bit of a competitive disadvantage. Other players would have had maybe an upper hand on him in some situations, but having 144 Hz doesn't exactly cut you off completely. You can still play the game well and perform well. Like the game is still gonna feel good, and for the most part it's gonna be consistent and stable. And yeah guys, with that being said, that's kind of all I have for the video. There isn't much more I want to talk about. I think I can safely wrap this video up now, and hopefully I maybe helped some of you guys that were thinking, you know what, I don't care about my specs, I don't get a consistent 240, I'm just gonna switch anyway because maybe the game suddenly becomes easy to run. Let me just assure you that will never happen. Fortnite is getting harder and harder to run. Do they need to release a performance update and optimization update? Do they need to further optimize their game? Yes they do. Fortnite really need to do that. I don't know why it's so hard to run, but it's just how it is. Honestly, don't waste your money if you cannot run 240. That's kind of literally what this video is. In a nutshell, that is all I'm telling you guys in this video. But yeah, if you did get to this point, I gave you any information. Like even if you got to this point of the video, I'm surely doing my job right. The least you can do for me is slap that like button. You can also subscribe to the channel with post notifications turned on, therefore you never miss an upload just like this. Remember code Fxtch in the Fortnite item shop. I'm never really promoting it. I'm not sure if I can mention how many supporters I have using my code. I think I can tell you a rough amount. I have close to 150. Let's try and get the number to around 200, maybe 300, and I'll probably do a giveaway. I think I'm going to talk about that more in tomorrow's video. But yeah, potential giveaway coming up fairly soon. So keep an eye out for that, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. It's been your boy Fxtch, and yeah, peace.